guess I could. Man,
We're
how
on. Good morning.
good morning, sir. How are you? In fact, I was looking through how to get it live out on our social media, but I'm delayed in that. So it'll just be us and we can repost as required. How about
Yeah,
that?
yeah, all good, all good.
Okay. How
No,
you
I'm
doing?
good. Good. Just got back from Ohio. Went up to visit my mom and my sisters. Well, my one sister lives there. My other sister was in town with her son, and
That's
so
good. You got to do it. That's a big road trip. I think I asked you this before, but I didn't hear your response. How long of a drive is that? That's a ways,
I
right?
mean it's 9 hours, straight,
Yeah.
but I left in the evening on both there and back, so I ended up stopping and
Yeah.
crashing and
That's probably better to do it that way anyway. So,
yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Having to pull off the highway in West Virginia. But it was cool because on the way up, um, as I was hitting the road again the next morning, I realized there was a CrossFit gym along
Oh,
the
did you step?
way.
Did you step
Yeah,
in
yeah.
for a guest CrossFit session?
Right, right. And I stepped
Yeah.
in at it's called CrossFit Cole in I think it was in Beckley, West Virginia. And turns out it's the home gym of the guy who's probably going to win the games this year. One of the
Oh my
top
God.
ones, Austin Hatfield, is he's sort of well known in amongst some CrossFit circles or whatever. It's not
Nice.
it's not a huge deal, but it was just kind of random and interesting, and it was just neat to see. Very small community. They've had that gym there for 10 years. They
Yeah.
don't make money on it. It's all like all the money. It's a huge gym, all sorts of great equipment, but I think the coaches are all volunteers and stuff. It's just they just do it for fitness, for health and the community, and it's
Yeah.
great.
What a good. Yeah. What a good mission. Sounds
But
exciting. Well, that's good. It was a good trip for you.
yeah, yeah,
Few unique experiences along the way.
right.
So
Got to
super.
take my mom to Easter service because she doesn't get
Nice.
to do that, and
Yeah.
you know went back to the style of church I grew up in, Methodist,
There you
as a
go.
kid,
Okay.
and different than the rock band churches out here that I typically go to, but
uh,
no, it was great. But how was your Easter?
yeah. No, it was a good Easter, right? We're just kind of here locally. And had my daughter and her husband over, and so it was good. It was good, right?
Very good.
So we've had a busy first quarter, right? First quarter, we had two big trips, right? Reflecting back in January, February, and March, right? We were Orlando in January, right?
Yep.
February, Norfolk at the Booz Allen corporate office, right? And then big trip for us in March, right? Supported Commander Naval Region Northwest. I'll say Seattle, but it was across the water there at Kitsap, and great trip for us out there. And we inducted in another cohort of senior leaders, right? And it was just a good trip all around. Steve Weeman, myself, a new inductee, right, to the Blue Water career progression consultant bench out there, Mr. Perrier. He's recently retired from Boeing, former Navy senior leader, right, with the P3 background. And then he's been in Boeing for, golly, it's 10 plus years. And now he stepped out, and he still has a lot that he wants to contribute, and this is a good fit for him periodically where we can weave him into the lineup, right? And he brings a lot of great insight to our members. So it was the three of us, and we had three really also senior lunch roundtable participants, one from Amazon, one from former Arnold Group, then KPMG, and now Mr. Matt Arney's on his own effort there, pursuits as he's stepping into a company there and driving, events for the company. And then we also had individual former Navy senior leader, right, with Microsoft, set the lunch roundtable with us. So just a good group of people out there all around.
Yeah, so that's a good highlight on the experience of going through Blue Water, the type of people and experience that you'd be able to communicate with as you're navigating your own career progression.
Yeah.
for those looking at the Blue Water model. But
Scott, we're getting close. Can you believe at the end of this year we'll be closer to 500 people than not in the network? 500
yeah.
senior leaders, right, in the network, in the lineup. Next week we're headed up to Pax River. Um,
You almost
of Maine.
won't need LinkedIn
Well,
anymore
I mean,
because people will.
I think
People
the
will
social media is still a great plus and a great addition, but there is the law of larger numbers, right? 500 starts to reach a point where you've got quite a reach out there, and arguably an impactful network for new members to come in and day one have that network available to them, right? So we're excited, and it's not just the network, but we maintain a relationship. We keep all of those relationships current. We know where those individuals are at, right? We stay in touch with them, so it's a vibrant, alive network, right? It's just not a list of names. So we're excited about it.
I think they're all super valuable. So, part of the networking, of course, we've been talking about the last few weeks, and just a quick update, we're going to rebrand the show from Take a Knee to Military Retirement Blueprint, because that's the name of the YouTube channel, and I've been making some changes in the background, and it kind of just fits the overall theme.
Good alignment
of what
right?
what we're doing. I mean, the idea is to come to this show, our channel, the content. Whether you've got questions about what to do with your military benefits and TSP or survivor benefit plan, that's where I come in with US Vet Wealth. And then when it comes to the career progression, where do you get that post-military income and finding the good fit, that's what Blue Water Advisors is about. And Mike and I met on LinkedIn, many years ago.
Been a long time now, right?
Yeah. And then you invited me to be on a couple of those panels, to just talk about, the post-military life world. And, I've always been in the self-employment space, so I've used, LinkedIn in a certain way than others have. But, our theme is the whole point of networking is, visibility. Finding those whom you're meant to serve, to find the right connection for you, so you're not just on the receiving end of somebody else's agenda. This is the opportunity. Hey, we're in the modern age, and if you choose to use it, and that's if I got any, I'm going to bring up a post I made last week that got some traction. Had a lot of thoughts.
You have made a
comments
couple of posts lately that have done very well. I mean, you're being kind of modest about it, right? What was it? A couple of weeks ago, you had a post that bounced huge. How many hits did you have on this thing? It was
800,000.
800,000.
I mean, I don't know.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and that wasn't my goal at all. My goal is to add a perspective that maybe people haven't thought of, and to say, hey, I understand you. I understand a particular audience, and maybe think about things this way if you haven't yet, and maybe for some that motivates them to do more. Now, the feedback I got was, yeah, I needed to hear this. Whether it was I made a post about my kind of health reset that I had, and a lot of people hit me up on that one saying, but this one, I'll bring it up right now, also seemed to hit home, because part of being on LinkedIn is, what do I do, right?
Sure.
And we've talked about having the profile, so go back and listen to our previous episodes where we just talk about some of the basics of making sure your headlines intriguing, you've got some good imagery, you've given some thought to your about section that isn't just regurgitating your resume, because this is the opportunity to
to align all that.
We call it build. They say build a personal brand. We don't like that term, just kind of like military transition. It's just gotten played out. So we like the term digital uniform.
I like it.
You
Yeah.
get to decide what the uniform is and how you present yourself. And so obviously one of the features of LinkedIn is being able to post. And is it Facebook? Is it Instagram? Twitter? There's all these different ways of posting on social media. And yes, this is the professional social media. And so people get a lot of opinions about the type of posts you should or should not make. And a lot of people who do post are simply posting, look at me, I got a promotion, or I got this job offer, and or here's what my day at work. I don't know if you've
Right.
seen the videos where people show their kind of day at work type stuff, and all that's fine, and it'll posting at all is going to make you more visible than 99%, because of the billion people on LinkedIn, the stats are something like about
Fraction.
1% do
Yeah.
any posting, right?
It's a fraction. Yeah.
It's a fraction. So if you do, you have the chance of simply just showing up more. Now, whether or not people engage with it or not, and how aggressive you want to be with it, that's up to you. It can be your own tool. But what I hear often is, I don't know, what to post. So I kind of made this tongue-in-cheek graphic, talking about, the fear of putting yourself out there, and that's understandable. And so I'll read.
You know what? As you're teasing that up, Scott, and to address the point you just made, right? Like, we get hit up often. We go, well, what do I post? How do I, like, it's really taking that first step that, hey, I've never done this. I've always, often we hear this, right? Members say, hey, I didn't want anything to do with social media. In fact, there was no goodness of it in my former life, wearing the uniform, security clearances, being parts of large organizations, on
you
the,
had a PAO.
yeah, or
That's their job.
You had somebody else
Right.
they were doing that, and now it's you. But what I would put out to members is, this is a great help in making that first step. Scott, if I did nothing more than to read your post and the message resonated with me, and down at the bottom, I decided to make a comment, and I said, I tagged you at Scott Tucker. Thanks for sharing this insight, Scott. Completely agree. And thanks for walking me through and how to make my first step, in building my digital uniform, right? I mean, if I did just nothing but that, in other words, you don't have to come up with the content to take the first step. You don't have to be the originator of it. You can comment, or you can forward that.
Yeah, well, the good one that's been working well for some of my posts that have hit a nerve. People then sharing it to other to their own profile. It's like you share stuff you find insightful, and then add your 2 cents.
Exactly.
So
then you'll get responses from your network, and therein lies building a professional dialogue that you're trying to tease out those insightful nuggets about a topic that you're trying to overcome as you move forward. Can be very powerful, right? And we try to do that on the Blue Water side for our members too, right? We post awareness. We're big posters of articles, right? We screen a lot that's out there that have to do with our curriculum, right? Resumes, statistics, applicant tracking systems, interview techniques, negotiating compensation. We will throw 100 articles on the cutting room floor, and when we find a good one, typically from the Wall Street Journal or Forbes or one of these reputable sources that'll have contributing writers posting on topics like that, we'll post that for our readers, right, and our members. And that's a great article to repost to exactly what you described. Make a comment, start a dialogue, try to tease out the highlights on what other people think about it. So for the listeners out there, you don't have to be the generator of the content. You can find something that's of interest to you, forward it, and you can build momentum that way as well too. We try to make it easy for you.
Yeah, because essentially what you're doing is adding value.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
that's what posting should be. So if you're making it about me and there's a time to say, hey, I had this experience, but what's the lesson there that makes it valuable to somebody else, or I wish somebody would have told me this sooner.
Yeah.
So trying to come up with frameworks where you go, oh, I've got an insight to share. That's what uh, people appreciate,
Yeah.
and there's a chance that it'll get more engagement, and engagement creates the visibility. So yes,
So you
you
kind
got to
of
play
tease
the
that
LinkedIn
out.
game.
Yeah, you kind of tease that out in your post. So I'm kind of
Yeah.
squinting here to kind of
Well,
read it, but
I'll just read it.
walk us through it. Yeah.
Yeah. I said, most military retirees treat LinkedIn like a resume. But what if it's more like your virtual uniform? You
Yeah.
spend 20 or 30 years building a reputation, then retire into digital invisibility. Not because you lack value, but because the habit of visibility was never trained. And in fact, some of the comments
Yeah.
I got
Yeah.
were about like, no, we like to keep a low profile on purpose. Well, that's fine. It's your choice, of course. It's all just a choice. We're not saying
Yep.
what you should or shouldn't do. Posting feels awkward. Guess what? Still does for me every single time. I'm always like,
Absolutely.
let's see
You're
what
hanging it
happens.
out there. You're hanging it
And
out
the post before this got 2 likes on it, probably.
there.
I don't know. But so did your first day at boot camp, but you did it anyway. LinkedIn isn't about branding, it's about broadcasting your relevance in real time. Not with perfect content, but with honest presence. It takes training on new skills, sets, and reps. The world doesn't need another retired officer with a stale bio. It needs you thinking out loud, thinking again.
Yeah.
So that's the
Well,
moral is,
you give them. I mean, even the last two sentences there, right? Your story didn't end; it just changed terrain. Drop a post this week. Be seen. Tag me so I can acknowledge your leadership. That's great. That's the call to action right there. If you did nothing more than take action, right? That call to action right there at the end of your write up. That
yeah.
you're on your way, right? You're on your way.
Now, I think one of the secrets, because the reality is, when I started getting a lot of comments, I'm overwhelmed. I've been traveling all weekend. I haven't been able to keep up. Like, I
Well,
would
when
love
you
to.
get
Well,
800,000, right? I mean,
yeah.
like, on it, tags, all that kind of stuff. Yeah. So
So, I want to engage with everybody. And for those who appreciated it, they sent me a direct message.
yeah,
And so I've had multiple phone calls with people who either want to learn how to, get on. I had a call last week with a guy named Pedro, who was just like, I just want to do some sort of setup like you've got going. He just wanted to hear, what are the basics to get off the ground? And I said, it's easy. You just hit go, on the
good.
software now.
Yeah,
You
you
don't
just
need
do it.
anything anymore. You just need your phone or your computer. And then the good news about LinkedIn is you don't have to just sit there and think of ideas. When you see, you can be inspired by somebody else's post, and whether you share it
Yeah,
or use that as inspiration, to write your own post.
yeah,
And guess what? AI can help you format it and put it in a way that makes it more consumable. So you would edit content anyways. Again, that's all AI is. It's a word calculator. And so it's helping you do that, quicker. And so you now really just have no excuse. If you want to practice posting, it's really just communication. It's modern communication. You learned how to write when you were younger, went to an English class.
yep.
So whether or not you do video or podcasting or writing articles, finding your voice is the ultimate idea here. And so you don't have to be a thought leader. My goal is not to be thought leader, build audience, and get influencers. That's not my objective. To some extent, it happens. This has led to me being invited to speak on panels and stuff like that. So you choose your own objective for how you want to use it, but then there's hundreds, if not thousands, of other veterans doing something similar to what you should be doing for your objectives.
Mm-hmm.
And so find them for inspiration. It's just low hanging fruit, and
No,
realizing that the fear of posting
yeah,
comes from that imposter syndrome, right?
sure.
And we all have it. But the other good news is, since it's just social media, if they don't want to read your post, they just scroll on. Like, nobody cares. I mean, yeah, maybe somebody leaves a mean comment. Like, so what?
Yeah.
They're gonna go leave a mean comment on somebody else's one. And quite frankly, the cool thing about LinkedIn compared to the Facebooks and the Twitters, not many people do. And so you just don't need to worry about it. Within a week, that post is going to drop off the feed anyways.
Mm-hmm.
So it really becomes a playground to test out your skills. And because most people simply won't do it, if you do and then hone that skill set,
Yeah.
the opportunity for someone to hit you up that you just weren't expecting, and that's happened to me at least a dozen times in the last couple weeks.
And this is a great
Hurt.
discussion, right? In the series, right? You kind of alluded to it, right? We've done, gosh, how many? We've done 5 or 6 episodes now,
Yeah.
right? As we've covered the LinkedIn profile page and how to optimize that page, how to make it current, some best practices, everything from the top all the way down the bottom to your background image, to your image, how to utilize it, the settings, right? Information that you've got on there. So if you're interested in right, kind of reviewing how to optimize your profile page, look back through the previous episodes. But this is a great segue too. Now that you've built that and you've optimized it, right? What are you going to do with it? Hey, let's take a step into building your digital uniform, right? What is your digital uniform now? What is that going to look
Yeah.
like, right? And these are some great, I call them incremental steps, right? I mean, and I'll make it about myself as I go back when I was stepping into transition, or as we like to say, career progression. Scott, I was risk averse when it came to social media. Had a couple of fairly large jobs, and I just wasn't comfortable embracing the risk, the potential risk that was out there.
And
Always
maybe
assumed,
it's real risk. That's
well,
understandable. For
it could
yeah.
be real, right? Yeah, it could be a brand impacting thing if something inadvertently gets posted. I mean, geez, we've got senior leaders, right, in government that are using various different mediums to inappropriately, in some cases, post confidential information, right? I mean, those are the circles we ran in. We wanted to be very protective of that. So I was really risk averse to all social media. I just didn't have it. But again, you've heard me say this time and time again. As I stepped into my career progression, it was very obvious in a very short amount of time that not having a digital uniform, not participating in social media, it was I was at some disadvantage, right? And how much I don't know. Why do I say that? Because people were asking me for it. I'm now in this at will work environment. You're now having conversations, you're building your network. People want to learn more about you. Certainly, as they're interviewing you, and if you're in the keep pile, they want to go to social media and learn more about you to see if there's alignment. And if you don't have those kind of things, right, the way I explain it to our members is you're the product, and these are the tools people are using to find you.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're not discoverable to some degree on there, we think you're at some disadvantage. Now, don't twist my words and don't interpret it to mean we don't think you will get a job if you do not have a social media brand. That's not what we're saying. And you couched it, and I forget how you said it. I say it that we think you're at some disadvantage. You said it a different way the other week. You said it, don't look at it as how much of a disadvantage it is. I think you said, let's talk about the benefits of it. Let's talk about what good it does, right? And that's probably a better way to have that discussion.
Again, if only 1% of people are posting, And on average, if you're a retiring military senior leader,
Yeah.
And you go to connect with a C-suite level person, not the CEO of Microsoft, I get that, but if you're thinking medium to small size businesses, other veteran business owners, if you send a connection request, most likely they're just going to accept it, right? You don't always have to put a nice little message.
Yeah.
You can.
Yeah.
90% of the the connection requests I get, people just send me a connection
A
request.
connection request. Yeah.
And as long as they're a veteran, I'm going to accept it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so now maybe that doesn't start a conversation right away, but now because you are connected, and since most people on here are professional, and if they're active, they're active for a reason, and
Yep.
you're posting, now you're one of 10 people. If they got the average person has about 1,000 connections. So if you're the only one posting, you're one of 10 people that are showing up in their feed on a regular basis.
Yeah.
And whether or not that leads to you, but if they happen to like or comment, then your post goes to yet another group of people, because that's how the algorithm works.
It is exactly right. And there is in fact, if you're interested in learning more about this, reach out to Scott and I.
Speaking of good LinkedIn posters,
yeah,
Jeff Lodick. I don't know if you know Jeff at all, but we met back at the Military Influencer Conference back in 2017.
fantastic. Hey, good morning.
Jeff, congrats. I know you just got a new gig, and it was because you were I saw you posting about it.
That's awesome.
In recent weeks. So congrats to you, man, and great to see you. We'd love to catch up soon.
No, that's great. But again, there's strategies out there on how to use this. It's a great tool to network with. It's a great tool to stay connected with your network. It's a great tool to let people know if you're interested in a specific company or industry. There's ways to do that. So we won't get into all that. We've rehashed that in previous episodes. But, if you're interested, reach out to Scott and I. We'd be happy to have a conversation with you.
Yeah, I love chatting about this stuff.
Yeah.
Because, my strategy is, again, having some sort of strategy, helps, but systems, not goals. I don't have a goal to build a big following or get a certain amount of connection requests or anything like that. I just have a system. Ideally, I would post something every day. I just, can't manage to do that. Ideally, I would respond to every comment.
Don't let it consume you, right? Don't let it consume you. Yeah.
I want to comment on other people's posts as well. But that's where you start. The system is, if you've never heard of Gary Vee, he's an online kind of marketing guy that's always kind of been ahead of the game. Some people love or hate him, but he originally started, 15 years ago with what he called the 99-cent strategy. What's the phrase? Leave your 2 cents. Yeah, it was the something like it was the $1.20 a day strategy or something like that.
Okay.
The idea was to leave your 2 cents 60 times a day. Oh, it was the $1.80 a day strategy. So 90 times leave a comment. Now that's obviously very aggressive, but maybe you have a 10 cent a day strategy.
Yeah, maybe
leave your 2 cents.
Leave it out. Yeah.
Exactly. And if you're starting in the comments or using the share and add in your 2 cents, and then wait until inspiration sparks and then write your own post. Don't go aggressive with the tagging. A lot of people sometimes get crazy with that, and they try to tag 50 people, hoping that that'll get them to engage with their posts. Chasing engagement, can get exhausting.
Yeah.
Whereas, building the skill set and finding your voice with those sets and reps is, where spending your time, and maybe it only takes you 15 minutes a day. To do it. And then I
could almost promise the listeners out there, if you're thinking about stepping into this, Scott, I can think of fewer individuals who are better versed in strategies and posting. Reach out to Scott, have a conversation with him. In fact, are you ready for it? Here it comes. He's genius on this. Right. But what I mean by that, Scott, is you've been doing this for a long number of years. You've learned the algorithm. You understand what creates balance. You understand how to approach this. And for many individuals, that's years of engagement that they have to learn these lessons. And
Yeah,
if they
yeah.
just reach out to you, right, you can walk.
Yeah, I don't claim to be a social media expert, nor do I want to be. I'm a life insurance guy, right? But I'm trying to get some eyeballs,
Yeah.
on my wife and I's small business here. But
And
we
you guys
only
do that
want to,
masterfully.
yeah,
Yeah.
we only want to find the right people.
Hmm.
And so I think what I am good at is helping people just get their aha moment
Yeah.
and maybe jump over a barrier and change a perspective on how they're looking at it. But it's gonna take action, like anything, and then internalizing that this could be a catalyst, and maybe it doesn't end up being LinkedIn as your main platform. Maybe you move on to a YouTube or a
Yeah. Could be
Substack.
some other ones. Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff out there, but at some point, having that digital niche network around you where it's just that much easier for your network to support you.
Yeah.
Make their
You
job easier for them.
You speaking mainstream to really what you're plugged in and supporting. You discussed a tool with me. You want to discuss it
Not
now?
yet. Not
Not
yet.
yet.
Still
Okay.
working on it.
I don't want to get ahead of you, but for the
Oh, I
listeners,
mean, I'll discuss it.
it's really cool. It's really cool tool. Scott showed it to me before we started the show this morning.
Well, I'll talk about it. I'm
Yeah.
in our industry, and obviously my goal is always to help military retirees reduce the stress of some of the financial decisions when
Yeah.
it comes to getting out of the military. Because getting out, trying to learn resumes and job interviews, and what do I want to do when I grow up, and what's my post-military plan, and you go through your retirement briefing, and all of a sudden you got to make the survivor benefit plan decision, or you've been saving mostly in your thrift savings plan, and now when you get out, you have an option on what you want to do with it. And with the economy and the world the way it is, and not everybody's interested in stock markets and investing and stuff. And so, what are ways to do that more efficiently
Love it.
or
Yeah.
in a safer way? And especially the survivor benefit plan, that's a stressful decision. You got to decide, oh, how am I going to protect? I've earned this pension. How am I going to leave it for my family if something happens to me? And then at least the people that come to us say, I just don't like the math on it. Doesn't feel right. There's got to be a better way. Well, if you're healthy and you've got the financial
Mm-hmm.
assets or income to do a private alternative, yeah, of course, there's a better way on the private marketplace than
Love it.
doing the kind of status quo. So,
Well, the tool
always trying to build out a
and it
tool
walks
of
you through that. Yeah.
ultimately calculators. There are calculators out there that give you the basics, but you got to interpret them, and so that's what we've always used in the past. Spreadsheets. You can get them right from the government website, the DoD Office of the Actuary, but how do you interpret them? What's important?
Yeah.
Projecting out, we want to make that easier. And
I didn't want to let the cat out of the bag, so I apologize if I did.
no. Of course not. Hey, I always letting
really
people know that we're working on ways to make it easier for people to say, all right, this is, if SPP is right for you, I'll be the first one to tell you.
Hey, and don't let me forget, Scott, when you get it built and you get it located on the site where you want it to, let me know, because I would love on Blue Water Digital on our resources page to put a link directly to it, right? For the individuals that are looking for that. I think it would be really helpful. It looked really exciting. So
speaking of, will do. Speaking of Blue Water Digital, how's that going? Any updates?
It really is. So currently, we are getting just slightly over 400 members. By the end of this year, we'll be closer to 500. Right now, we've got about 125 people registered on the platform. And this is, help us get the word out. If you're listening in and if you're a Blue Water member, this is a great resource available that exposes you and gives you visibility to the entire Blue Water network. And what I mean by that is, Scott, we do cohorts, right? We'll do groups of 10 or 12 people, small group, high touch. And what we find is these groups become very cliquish, right? They're very, hey, we went through this cohort together. We're bound, and we kind of know everybody in our cohort. Blue Water Digital is a way to say, look, here's one cohort. Here's 45 other cohorts that look just like you. And here's the individuals that are there. Here's the companies that they have landed with. Here are their landing reports that they provided. We have compensation information for everybody's successes that are out there. You can connect with the individuals. You can request access to the landing reports. You can do so much on the Blue Water Digital tool. And if you're a Blue Water member, this is a resource that is available to you. We're just now having to go back all the way back to January 2021, our first cohort, and we're trying to bring everybody, to get them to register on the platform because we want to serve the needs of our members. And I get it. A lot of our members have already landed. But I think you would agree with me. Just because you have a job doesn't mean that that's going to be the only job you're going to have in your future. You still need to maintain your professional network.
The robots are coming.
This is your professional network, right? And we keep it current for you. So we're really excited about it. We're getting ready to go to Pax River next week. And 2 weeks after that, we're bringing the entire Blue Water leadership team together. And we are already starting on version 2 of Blue Water Digital improvements and upgrades to the platform, right? So Stay tuned. We're excited to build a good tool and we're going to improve upon it, right?
No, moving quickly, and appreciate everything you're doing for the community and thinking ahead and finding ways to make it easier for them to feel comfortable about the various aspects of landing that next gig. And
exactly.
I think understand. I mean, one of the most valuable things from my perspective is, people say, "What am I worth?" And for you to have that data for somebody, all the people who already landed their jobs, and to say, here's the compensation, here's how they negotiated, here's exactly how the process went. It's like that's removes the stress. Same thing I'm trying to do with the SPP decision. Here's the variables to look at.
It's a math problem.
Then make your own decisions, right? Yeah.
And here's all the data, and here's the analytics, and make it easy to understand. There you go. Now you are well informed to make a decision, right? And it just, as I like to say now, it gives you 20/20 visibility as you step into your transition, right? Your career progression. There's no fog of war here. We've removed all the fog of war. There is great visibility. We understand how to make the approach. We understand where everybody is going. That's a common question we get. Mike, I don't know what I want to do. What are other people that look like me? Where are they going? And I go, well, let's look at it. I can tell you exactly where they're going.
Yeah.
I can tell you what percentage went to big defense, what percentage went to government contracting, what percent pursued private equity, venture capital, how many of them went to government service roles, how many of them landed in the commercial sector. We can break it down. We've got that data, right? And so people are going, oh, I didn't read. You mean I can go work for Johnson & Johnson? That's not a military company. You're right. It's not. You mean they would take me there? Yes. The short answer is yes. They want people like you, right? And so it's just wide open. And I love the data that it shows, right? That there are all kinds of options out there for members. Just depends on what they want to pursue. So we get that compensation, that revenue stream going. So then you can help them build, right, the war chest, right? How to protect it, right? How to do that. And this is just such a great alignment and a match the way we work this, Scott. We're serving the needs of the same demographic, but from completely different aspects, right? And so
what I often hear is, I want to put in another good 10 years. And with Perry, you mentioned he got out right after 10 years with Boeing. And it's like, well, how do you plan for that 10-year exit strategy? And that's what the concept between the war chest is about. It's like, you've already built your biggest asset. Retiring from the military, earning your pension,
And
that
that's
is the
very
most valuable asset. So
85% of our members are those senior O5s and O6s, right? That's about 85% of our membership and just those two rank demographics there. And that is a very common approach. Hey, I get out. Hey, I've got about 10, 12 years of heavy lifting left in me. And, and so how do I push hard, lift hard, and then what do I do with that income and everything? Well, go see Scott. Go talk to him, right? I mean, he's going to build the war chest. He's going to tell you how to protect that. But when you get serious, you want to start necking your target set down and how to land with one of these companies, right? We've got the network, we've got the insight, we know how to do that, right? It's just a great alignment, right? It's a great service. I love what we've built here.
no, I appreciate it, man. And yeah, we're real excited about this direction here with the consolidating the show idea and the military retirement blueprint. Because on the YouTube channel, we've hit on lots of different topics. Sure, I've got all my videos about making some of the financial decisions, but we put a lot of episodes there with Mike going through various aspects of career progression. We've had some interviews people have already gone through. I know there's some people that we've got planned to interview here in the future. So if you've got a message you'd like to share with us,
reach out,
hit us up, and we'll schedule an interview.
Absolutely.
We're not super organized with this, other than, hey, we try to go live mostly once a week on Wednesday mornings. But if we can help the audience, help the Blue Water members. Actually, I had an idea while you were talking earlier. It's like we should probably set up a LinkedIn group, a private group. That way, if you wanted to share stuff specifically for the Blue Water members, or we could say, hey, for listeners of the MRB here, maybe we can kind of build on it that way.
I like it.
So,
hey, before I know I mentioned it, but next Wednesday I'm out, right? I'm teaching up in Paxton River, right? So we got another.
And I know you got a long drive. You just found out about.
It's all good.
No.
I love
actually, I'm presenting. Is that the 30th?
It is April 30th.
Yeah, I'm doing a webinar style presentation for the Rosie Network.
Oh, okay.
It's my retirement is a mindset. Retirement's not an age; it's a mindset. Is the theme. So, you're sponsored by Robinhood. They're supporting the Rosie Network. Rosie Network is near and dear to my heart because Jen and I kind of got started in our small business journey out in San Diego with Stephanie Brown and her organization. She's the widow of Admiral Brown, Navy SEAL, passed away a few years ago. But she started that organization initially to help military spouses who are struggling with employment to get into entrepreneurship, and that's extended into veteran circles as well. So they have cohorts all around the country. So if you are thinking about the basics of small business, they have a service to CEO program. And so I'll be speaking to that group, but it's open, to anybody. So encourage you to join. And I'm going to talk about more than just the money parts of retirement. It's really about, lifestyle, health, longevity. As I just came from visiting my mother, who's unfortunately, got early stage dementia. Or actually, I don't know what stage it is. It's tough, and so I know a lot of people are dealing with that with their parents.
Yep.
And I think, regardless of how much money you save, what's the point if you don't have a plan to use it? And if the plan to use it is only to pay for health care, then that doesn't go well, because they make you spend it all down before Medicare, Medicaid, and all that kind of stuff kicks in. It's just like, if you can avoid all that, trust me, it would, it'd be good. So, and we also talk about the whole idea of, digital visibility in that space, because retirement isn't just going to a golf course for everybody. For some people, if that's all it is, then great. But a lot of people retire and want to give back. So again, your story with Perry, finding a way to, contribute, maybe it's only a couple times a month or whatever it might be, but to give up that sense of purpose might be a risk. So all important.
No, it's I think it's a great message, great discussion, right? But there's a lot of opportunities that are out there, right? To find the fulfillment, right? To find fulfillment. Yep.
Yes, sir. All right, man. Well,
Yes,
I'll let
sir.
you go. I know you got a lot going on to plan for next week, and appreciate your time.
You as well, and always a good chat, Scott. Always a good chat.
Yes, sir. Thanks for everybody who joined us, and yeah, hit us up if
We'll see you
you
next
want to
time.
chat about anything.
Yeah. All right.
Cool.
Cheers.
All right, take care.